we could just run down the list real quick, Drew, starting off with the quarterback position, because I feel like that's the conversation that we could see here the longest on. Lamar Jackson was the one who made the first team All-Pro. I already brought it up with you. I put Josh Allen. You had an argument against that if you want to bring it up to the people.
Listen, Lamar Jackson had 18 points better of a QB rating. He had 800 extra yards. He had 4 more touchdowns, and he had 2 less interceptions.
Yep.
But I just feel like coming into this season, our expectation for the Ravens adding Derrick Henry were sky high.
Yeah,
Everybody knew what the Ravens were going to accomplish this year. And then some people, esteemed people, didn't even have the Bills in their top 10 to start the season. So I just think what Josh Allen has done this year, he's always had this rap of how he just turns the ball over. He's just loosey-goosey with the ball. He threw 41 touchdowns to 6 interceptions this year. That is, I have to tell you, actually, across the NFL, the amount of great quarterbacks that didn't throw a lot of interceptions this year was outlandish. Like, it was amazing how well these quarterbacks protected the ball this year. Lamar's got him on the yards. He's got him on the touchdowns. He's got him on the interceptions. He's got him on the QB rating. But I think Lamar has the better team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to sit here and punish Lamar. But I also think that Lamar already has 2 MVPs. Is he probably going to win his third? Yes, probably. But if I were going to give it to anyone, I would give it to the guy that I've championed all season, and I would give it to Josh Allen. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and this comes from people on this podcast who are we hoist and we put Lamar Jackson up. We were never at one point or another Lamar Jackson haters on this podcast, and we're going to continue to be the people that champion Lamar and continue to watch him, and hopefully he continues his success going into the divisional round. We'll see kind of how it goes, because this is Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, literally in a couple of days. I put Josh Allen there because it's just kind of the same arguments that you said about Josh has less around him and the Bills have a better record. And we look at last year's argument, Dak Prescott kind of had all the better numbers that Lamar did, but Lamar had the better team and Lamar had the better record, so Lamar won it. And I'm going to kind of stick with that same thing. Sure, Lamar has the better numbers now other than last year, but Josh is the one who has the better record. He's made up like 83% of his team's EPA, which is fucking insane, and which is like first in the league by far. And he carries the entire team on his back. Obviously, they acquired Amari Cooper, which the name stands out very, very nicely. He's made a lot of really cool plays, but Amari Cooper is not Amari Cooper from last year, the year before that. It's a much different player. James Cook is awesome. The offensive line is cool, but I'm not a big believer in Keon Coleman. The tight ends are cool. And with the moves that they had to make in the offseason because of the limited amount of cap space, as in negative cap space for the year, and cutting all the guys that they had to cut, being in this position now is a testament to Josh Allen and the coaching staff, Joe Brady and the head coach and everyone to carry this team forward. I put Josh there at the first team All-Pro just because, again, working off the argument last year, again, Dak had better numbers. Lamar had the better record. Lamar got it. Josh has the better record. Lamar has better numbers. I think Josh should get it, but I think Lamar will end up winning his third MVP, which I don't have a huge issue with, just because big Lamar Jackson guy, and he is playing fantastic. So great MVP race this year. First team All-Pro, super hard to select, but I did give it to Josh because of that.
Yeah, and people are going to clip this and call us Lamar Jackson haters, which if you do that, you haven't watched all year. We love Lamar. It's not a thing against Lamar. It's just one of those things that I think that Lamar has the ability to go out every week and make mistakes. And Josh Allen has to go out every week and play the best football of his life for that team to win. And that's what he's done all season. And I think when you're talking about the most valuable player, if you put a replacement level player, to be honest with you, let's just do it this way. And I hate to do this because it's my boy, my guy. But if we just take both those quarterbacks off those teams and we put Brock Purdy in there, who is a serviceable quarterback, which team's winning more games, the Ravens or the Bills? I think it's clear cutting away the Ravens. You're going to give Derrick Henry 30 carries a game, and that defense and, all that stuff. That's the route you're going to go. So I agree with Lamar Jackson as first team All-Pro. Josh Allen is first team All Pro. Pay attention.
Saquon Barkley was the selection for first team All Pro. Yeah, we both agree on that one. I did not select a fullback because fullbacks are not real people. So
Juice.
moving on to the tight end position, though, Brock Bowers was the selection for first team All Pro. I think there's a really, really strong case for George Kittle to be in that position. And hey, if you watch the podcast all year, you know that Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels are pretty much the mainstays in the rookie performances of the week. And that's how good those guys are. But George Kittle was really good, a lot less targets, being a better run blocker. He was fantastic the entire season. I think as a weapon, Brock is better as an overall player. I think there's a really strong argument here to put Kittle in this position at tight
Hey, I support the 49ers winning every award, so I'm with you.
At the wide receiver position, we have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown winning the first team All-Pro selections. I think there's a really strong argument for Brian Thomas Jr. to get this selection over Amon-Ra with the better numbers, the amount of targets that he's gotten, doing it on the amount of receptions, 83, 87 receptions on the year. So not really a whole lot compared to the yards that he got, third in the league in yards. I think there's also a really strong argument for CD. Drake London had a great year. Again, Amon-Ra definitely deserves to be in this argument for first team All Pro. I ultimately went with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he was fantastic on a team that has Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones primarily like throwing to him for the entire year, and he's just been this good. I think that he deserves that selection a little bit more than Amon-Ra. As good as he has been, I think Brian Thomas has just been fantastic. So that would be my last wide receiver selection.
It's funny that you went with that variation of that argument, because that was my argument for putting CD Lamb there, was because he didn't get Dak all year.
Yeah. Right.
He got, and everybody, the most popular player on a bad team is the backup quarterback. And I feel like the Cowboys fans have been calling for their backup quarterback for years and years and years. Cooper's cool, but he's not Dak Prescott. So
right.
Same argument for CD. Hopefully he comes into camp and gets healthy and gets on the same page with his quarterback this year, and the Cowboys can have a reset, because there was not, at least some teams that had down years can point to their rookies developing or stuff like that, or now they get a higher draft pick, but your guys' rookie sucked. Your last year rookie sucked. So I don't know why you feel any confidence in this year's rookie being any good. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And since we're on it, yeah, I mean, they still got you taking Ashton. So
yep.
Who a viewer wanted us to point out that he was really good the year prior at receiving the ball against lackluster competition, because catching balls out of the backfield against Hawaii definitely means you could do it at the NFL level when Fred Warner is chasing you down. But I digress.
Moving into the offensive line positioning now, the left tackle position went to Tristan Wirfs. I think that this might be the most egregious position to get wrong. Jordan Milata was fantastic all year. Drew mentioned it last week, I think, or the week before. We're really big on touting the PFF grades when it supports our arguments, and then not doing it when it doesn't support our arguments. This is one of the ones where Jordan Milata is the only player in PFF's history to score a 90 grade or higher in both his run blocking and his pass blocking. He's been fantastic the entire year. I don't know how you go any different than this.
And Tristan Wirfs' run block grade was a 62, by the way. Jordan Mailata's was 95.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I mean, just because I got it up, no disrespect to Tristan Wirfs, awesome player. I'm
Absolutely.
not hating. He was the 9th highest ranked tackle this year.
Yep.
I mean, Jordan Mailata was just 92.2 pass block, 95.2 run block. That's asinine. That is
as perfect as you could get, essentially.
There's only 2 players all year that got a 90+ grade in pass block, and it was Jordan and it was Tristan Wirfs. And then run block, there's only 2 players all year that got it in the 90s, and it's Jordan and Penei Sewell, who's an all-pro. So I think when you stack that upon how well the Eagles did this year, when you look at what Saquon Barkley did this year,
Yep.
I mean, Bucky Irving had a good season, don't get me wrong, but holy smokes, I really think they missed on this one.
Absolutely. The next two, I agree with Joe Tooney and Creed Humphrey at the left guard and the center position, both from Kansas City. Drew, you didn't have anything different for these two, did you?
Yeah, I mean, guards are guards are guards are guards, you know. And I hate to say that like they don't matter. They definitely matter, but I you know, how much better is one over the other? They're when a guard is sweet. Like you can take Tooney if you want, but are you going to be really mad if you get Quentin instead? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
just if you're I mean, again, I'm always going to go back to this. We had this argument about the Rams in the offseason signing those guards, those contracts. The 49ers took a guy in the third round, and he was the sixth highest rated guard in the NFL this year
hmm
as a rookie, Dominic Pooney. It's just, I don't, yeah. Yay, guards.
At the right guard position, I had Chris Lindstrom over the guard from Denver, Quinn. I'm not even gonna try to say his name.
Miners.
There you go.
Feels
I went with Chris though instead, and then
that's
at the
one of Drake's favorite players, by the way.
yeah, I'm sure it is. And then at the right tackle position, Penei Sewell. Yeah, absolutely. So at the overall, for the offensive side, they got to think primarily a lot of things correct here. There's really not a whole lot of things to have a lot of discussion about, especially with the offensive line portion. Jordan Mailata is the biggest discrepancy. Big discussion about Brian Thomas Jr. and a lot of discussion about the quarterback position as well. I think Mailata is the only one where you go, "What the fuck are you doing?" Outside of that, I don't think it's really anything egregious. On the defensive side of the ball, though, starting off with the edge rusher position, we have Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson taking the first team All Pro positions. I really wanted to try to sneak Nick Bonito somehow in here, and I just looking at the numbers and looking at everything, I couldn't, and I really, really wanted to, but Miles was so good all year. Trey leading the league in sacks. You can't go any other direction. As good as Nick Bonita was, and you want to give props to the guys who aren't discussed that often, just not enough to beat some of the all perennial guys here. And he did make second team All Pro. So shout out to him. He was fantastic, but just not good enough to beat out some of those other guys. Looking at the interior defensive line positions too, Cam Hayward and Chris Jones. We all know how good Chris Jones is. I was not super aware. I knew Cam was having a good year all year, but you look at the numbers that Cam Hayward was putting up, absolutely asinine numbers. Cam Hayward was on a wrecking. He was a wrecking ball through everyone this year. At the age that he's at, 35 years old. By the time next season starts, he's going to be 36 years old by the time next season even starts, and playing at a high level that he already is. Again, Chris Jones also deserves his first team All Pro. The only other one is Dexter Lawrence. Can definitely get some arguments in there. I don't think they're as strong as some of the arguments for some of the offensive side of the ball positions, but those two guys were definitely again. You want to sneak in some of these other guys like Dexter Lawrence or Nick Bonito, and you can't fit them in because of how good that those four guys up front were. You just can't.
I just stumbled upon an interesting stat, not to hijack this back to the offensive conversation, but do you know in the last 15 years how many the list of quarterbacks that were named first or second team all pro without having another all pro teammate?
Oh,
It's just Josh Allen.
I was gonna
He's the
say I'm
only
like trying to think.
quarterback. He's the only quarterback in the last 15 years to make first or second team all pro and not have another all pro teammate, which goes back to he has to be Superman. Shout out Cam Newton every week for his team to win.
Absolutely.
So
Yep. At the linebacker spot, this is where we can have another argument about some stuff. Zach Bond, great. Hey, shout out to my dad, by the way, sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings in Cleveland, day before the game. We're sitting there, or yeah, day before or 2 days before the game, and we're sitting there watching the game in Brazil, the Eagles versus the Packers, and we notice Zach Bond all over the place, and he goes, "Mark my words, Zach Bond is going to be the free agent signing of the year." Son of a bitch. This motherfucker was right. I mean, holy shit, first team all pro for a guy that no one knew really who he was coming into the year to first team all pro and arguably, I don't even know if arguably, just the best linebacker in football today. So yeah, shout out to him for being right on maybe the first 30 minutes of football and making a prediction like that. So next linebacker spot definitely goes to Fred Warner. and they gave it out to Roquan Smith for the final linebacker position. I think that Bobby Wagner over Roquan Smith is arguable, and that's what I did. You look at all the numbers. Yes, I know Roquan had more tackles, but you go look at like pass deflections and tackles for loss and interception and stuff like that. It comes down to sacks. Bobby had a better year than Roquan did on a Washington team that wasn't supposed to be as good, a defense that wasn't supposed to be as good as it was. And he's old as fuck and somehow still doing it at a high level. Another conversation with these guys who are old as shit and coming in and still doing it at a high level. Chris Jones is getting up there in age, and Bobby Wagner's up there in age and still doing it at a high level is incredibly impressive. So I wanted to go ahead and give it to him instead of Roquan, who is bound to have a conversation every single year, feels like, for the next 5 years to be in that first team All Pro.
I feel like a certain rookie linebacker for Green Bay might be forcing himself into that conversation going forward too. He had a phenomenal year also. So
I think he definitely should have some arguments for sure. The cornerback position, I have no arguments about. Patrick Surtain, Derek Stingley, Marlon Humphrey. At first looking at him, I was like, well, what about Trent McDuffie? He's been awesome all year. Looking at the snap count, he's been playing wide all year, so very limited in the slot. So shout out to Marlon playing that role that he was not playing in the previous seasons, and he's awesome. So no arguments on slot corners or the corners in general. Drew, I don't know if you had any comments about that.
no, can't argue. Definitely can't argue Pat. I mean, it's funny to not have a conversation, not to be able to mention Sauce on this at all, but
Yeah,
hopefully he bounces back next year. You can't be even Darrell Revis had down years. So
absolutely. And last thing that we have on here, safety position, Kerby Joseph, I also have as first team All Pro. The only one I had swapped out, yes, I know Xavier McKinney, 8 interceptions. That's awesome. But Kyle Hamilton is, I think, by far the best safety in football. And I gave my other first team All Pro selection out to him. He's fucking awesome, dude. I mean, Kerby Joseph was awesome the entire year. If you want to tout the PFF grade, 90.1 overall grade, third in safeties. Then the pass rush grade is third in safeties. The run defense is third in safeties. The coverage grade is fifth in safeties. 80 solo tackles, a pick, 12 pressures. He was awesome. So shout out to him, man. Again, I think he's the best. He was the best safety in football. He was fourth in stops, second in forced fumbles. He's all over the place. We know what type of guy Kyle Hamilton is. Again, I get it. Interceptions, fantastic. I think that's awesome. I tout a team that has guys who get 10 plus interceptions, but the interceptions don't mean anything to me. I just fuck off. I don't care, because we see where Trayvon Diggs is now. Deron Bland has been injured, so I'm not going to comment on that. So, Sacramento State stand up. It's okay. We're going to move on from that. All right. Before we move on, though, from the All Pro selection.
Stingers up.
What'd you say?
No, I said Stingers up. No, if you look, Kyle Hamilton is the only safety out there that truly does it at every level. He can rush the passer, the run defense, the coverage grade. Even if you look at Kerby Joseph, he's not very good at rushing the passer. If you look at Brandon Jones, he's not a good run defender. Xavier McKinney, not a good run defender. Jabril Peppers, terrible pass rusher. So, they actually, to be honest with you, the only other player out there safety wise that does it all at a complete level like Kyle Hamilton does is Derwin James. I mean, Derwin James, I believe, got All Pro votes at slot corner. So yeah, that's where Derwin James is at. So yeah, Kyle Hamilton for sure. No disrespect to Xavier McKinney. Again, the thing that people have to understand before you clip this and scream at us is we're talking about the top 3 players at their position.
Yep.
And sometimes the best quarterback in the league is Patrick Mahomes. Everybody knows that, but he was not an All Pro this year. It's just the way it goes. So,